Well, a shot in the arm as tea was called on day two at Headingley for India. Otherwise, that was a session that entirely belonged to England. It still does. Looking at the match situation, they lead by 220. They've lost just the 3 wickets, and Joe Root looks like he can score hundreds with his eyes closed, to the sort of form that he's in. We'll discuss it all on ESPN Cricket for Match Day with Maninder Singh and Steve Harmison. Thank God that wicket fell. Otherwise, I didn't know what else I was going to ask you other than, oh, how good have England been and what's happened to India, blah, blah, blah. But thank God we've got a wicket to talk about. It puts an unfortunate end to what's otherwise quite the comeback for David Malan's career, Steve.
Yeah, very much so. And he knew, didn't he? He knew. Siraj, you could see in, I think he must have been able to see David Milan's face when he was talking to Joe Root, saying, look, come on, you've got to refer this. You've got to refer this. Come on, captain. He was begging the captain to refer it. And when he did, the expression on Milan's face just knew that he had nicked it. And we say that was with the strangled down leg side what was going to get India off and running, because it just looked for that whole session that India was hoping that something was going to happen, not thinking that positively that they're going to make something happen. I think they were hoping more than anything that England would give them a wicket rather than India look like getting a wicket. But Milan has done brilliantly since he's come back. Very accomplished in defence. Shots square of the wicket, very, very good. And then when India overpitched, which it did in that session quite a bit, he got punished. He punished the bad ball, the half volley. He went for four. So disappointing then for Milan, but England are in a fantastic position.
Yeah, there's another story that's running money in this series other than India and England. It's Kohli, Siraj, and reviews, and it's not gone their way entirely. But every now and then, when you least expect it, something like this happens, where the faith is again restored in Virat Kohli, the captain, when it comes to reviews, and then he'll just keep taking them now going forward. This time, it was the right call.
I think Siraj was very sure that he had nicked the ball, Malan had nicked the ball, and because you can see from the wicketkeeper's reaction basically that whether he's nicked it or not. And
Yeah.
I mean Rishabh Pant generally, when there's no nick, he throws the ball up in the air and all that. But this time around, when it nicked, he didn't do anything like that. But Siraj was certain that Malan had nicked the ball. But I'd like to say one thing, that Malan, this has been a brilliant comeback from Malan, and I'm sure he's going to take the Indian bowlers for a drink tonight, because they fed to his strengths when he came on to bat, because he's somebody from his stance only. You can see that if you bowl him a little up in the beginning, he's going to have trouble. But I think they kept bowling short to him, gave him those square cuts, and he got his confidence. But he's contributed brilliantly and put England in a very commanding position.
Yeah, if you could just extend on that, Money, it's understandable that India's bowlers would be a bit disheartened. Match situation isn't for them. Looks like it's easier the batting conditions for England. But did it strike you that there was either a lack of plan or just not a clear plan after lunch?
Sometimes what happens when you just got out for 78 and the other teams got a big lead. I mean, at lunch they had more than 100 runs lead, 104 runs lead. Sometimes your focus, your concentration goes down, and that is, I think, exactly what happened, because seeing the body language of these Indian boys, which we've seen earlier as well in the previous Test match, if you see, they were all fired up. But here, the shoulders had dropped, the heads had dropped, and it can happen when you're in a situation like that, when you've just scored 78 runs in the first innings, and the opposition has got a big lead with 8 wickets in hand when they came out for lunch. And this was expected as well. I mean, you do expect an international side to come back, but the way this pitch is playing, uh, it can happen to any team.
Yeah, I mean, we've got two bowlers here, so let's sympathize with the bowlers. Steve, you echo Money's sentiments. Do you feel for India's bowlers, or do you still think they could have done a bit more in that session?
Yeah, they could have done a bit more. I think you can always do a little bit more when there's only one wicket gone in the session. Yeah, try and bowl one side of the wicket, try and dry up and make the batsman hit. I still think England had too many scoring options both sides of the wicket for my liking. If I was an Indian fan, I think sometimes you give credit to the batsmen as well, that they didn't allow India to bowl dot balls, didn't bowl one side of the wicket. Joe Root has this ability to score between sort of cover point, and sort of wide third man. And there's two fielders in that area, and his ability to put the ball between them for either a boundary, which releases so much pressure, or even just a single to get a left-hander on strike. And I think that's what's really troubled the Indian bowlers. Not being able to hit length, but not being able to bowl one side of the wicket, especially when left and right-handers are rotating the strike very, very, very well. I think you've got to give credit to the batsmen as well as look at the bowlers. Your 78 isn't obviously a total that you want to be bowling to, but you've also got to look at it from a bowling point of view and forget that. You've got to try and think, well, we've bowled this England team out for 4 innings before this one in the past for less than sort of 300, 350, and lower totals again. We should be a lot better than where we are at this minute in time. But from England, just bat big and really ram home the advantage and put the pressure back onto these Indian bowlers, because mindset, where India were at Lords at the end, I think they're about where England were at Lords at the end now, and that's the England's advantage now.
And to think that Joe Root is still out there. Yes, Money, please.
Yeah, I think a lot of credit goes to Joe Root, because he was in such a positive frame of mind. It's that confidence that he's carrying from the previous two test matches. He scored 100 in both the test matches. And, when a batsman is in such a sublime form, he dictates terms. He forces the bowler to bowl to his strengths. And that is exactly what's happened, because, the Indian bowlers had no clue where to bowl to him, because he was ready for everything. And that happens when you're in such kind of a form, because we've seen Virat Kohli when he's in such a great form. What we've seen in the past 2, 3, 4, maybe more years, he has dictated terms, and the bowlers have bowled to his strengths, and that is what exactly Joe Root is doing at the minute. And a lot of credit goes to him, because scoring 118 runs in 2 hours on
Yeah.
this kind of a track, it's tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that in the scorecard. Four batsmen, all four batters have got scores in excess of 50. Joe Root's going at a strike rate of 85. That takes his tally to 466 runs in this series in 5 innings. It's remarkable. We're halfway through this series. He's nearly 500 runs, averaging over 150. Steve, this is some time for Joe Root. We've discussed it before, yes, but with every innings, even when he's got the start, perhaps there could have been a case for him to, not be as focused. He is just hammering it down. This is now a period of play where we're seeing Root go from good to great to pretty much all-time great or genius.
Yeah, 100%. Absolute 100%. And the Indian bowlers will be going to sleep tonight and seeing Joe Root's New Balance bat in their dreams. It will be. It'll just be like that. And I've been there many times before. I'm thinking, I can't get away from him. Especially in a series, a 5-match series. If you're a bowler and a batsman's having a great time, I can think of Sachin, Ponting, Lara in the Caribbean. I'm thinking, I'm going to bed at night and I'm closing my eyes thinking, well, I've just bowled 30 odd overs in a day and I'm really tired and the heat's got me. And all I can see is the batsman in my sleep. So I'm assuming that's what's happening to the likes of Shami and Bumrah and in Siraj. He's phenomenal at this moment in time. I think this is as good as I've ever seen anybody play from an English point of view in a series. Michael Vaughan, possibly 2002-3 against the great Australia side. Kevin Peterson in time, the 2007-8 time. But I don't think I've ever seen anything as good as what Joe Root is accumulating now in this series so far. Still 2 test matches to go.
Yeah, and of course, this comes at the back of effectively scoring runs by himself in Sri Lanka, winning the series there, runs in Chennai when India were there, and now he's carried that form here. Wow, still got an Ashes to come. Who says he won't go past Alistair Cook? All that sort of conversation has already been triggered. Money, let me have a similar sort of chat with you. Steve makes a nice point. I can remember Steve Smith when India were there in 2014. It just seemed like he was batting every day of the series. If you put on the TV, you're watching Steve Smith. The bowlers tend to get that sort of feeling. Can you relate to something in your career as well, where you just said, God, this guy just keeps batting. He's in my dreams, in my nightmares now.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say in my dreams or anything, but yeah, when we used to come on the ground, we used to think, oh, bloody hell, how am I going to get him out? If you talk about Javed Mianda, especially in
Yeah.
Pakistan, with their empires, it was impossible to get him out. And, Zahir Abbas. And, when you were talking about bowling against Gordon Greenidge or Vivian Richards, you still thought, because he was so aggressive, that, if you played with his ego a little bit, keeping a silly point or a short leg, there was a chance because he would go to hit you out of the ground. But Gordon Greenidge was one of them. It used to be very difficult to get him out because he used to hit the ball so hard, and he used to hit good balls, out of the park. So yes, I've had not nightmares but daymares. Whenever coming onto the ground and looking at these boys, I used to think, oh bloody hell, I've planned all this, but is it going to work?
Yeah. Steve, any more stories that come to mind?
No, I can remember. I can remember Ricky in Australia, and Ricky Ponting just kept getting runs against us, and just kept getting runs. And there was one morning I actually think I looked out the dressing room window to see if he was actually on the field before I took the field, because I thought I just had visions of walking on the field like I would at normally 11 o'clock when the umpires are walking out, and you're walking on the field again with him because he's not out overnight and he's got three figures. I thought the last thing I want to do at 9:15 when I'm going out for warm ups is to walk on the field exactly at the same time as him. So no, there's many, many times, but that's a contest. That's a great contest between the bat and the ball. And Joe Root, I'm sure, he was saying to himself, I'll be cashing in, because there's times throughout my career when things haven't gotten as well. And this time, at this minute in time, he looks in ridiculous touch. That bat looks very, very wide, looks very, very long, and it's coming down very, very straight. And it doesn't look as though it's getting any smaller to the Indian bowlers anytime soon.
I guess all the stats men are going to be in severe overtime mode now, and they're going to try and figure out the most runs against India in a five-test series. Joe Root's already looking very good. Now let's look ahead. Final session of play money. I guess the question on a lot of Indian fans' minds is: can India still believe they can get something out of this Test match, at least to avoid defeat? It looks like one-way traffic entirely now with the lead of 220.
Yeah, they better start thinking like that, because it's going to be very difficult with 7 wickets in hand, lead of 220 runs. It's very difficult for the bowlers to really concentrate. But it's up to the captain. How do you come back into the game? At least show that intent, which is going to be very important. And I think Steve was saying one thing that, in situations like this, you just pack one side and keep bowling on that side so that you don't give them easy runs and they make mistakes. Because, with T20 cricket, not too many batsmen will stay too quiet for too long. And if you try and do that, maybe you could get them out. But even if they get a lead of 300 runs, I think that's going to be a big ask for the Indians. But the only thing they can do is that, okay, we are on the floor, but we've got the intent, so that when they go in the next Test match, the English team will think that this is not the team that we are going to walk over. They're going to come back and hit us hard.
I'm guessing England are already thinking about not batting again, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. I think England will be sitting there in the dressing room, and if I was Joe Root, I'd be pulling my men in now, and this is the huddle I'd be wanting to give, the conversation I'd be wanting to have, and telling them how ruthless that this England team need to be. Just remember what it felt like at Lords when we walked off that field, humiliated, asking questions about all our players, where we are as a team, our shambolic English cricket and all that. This is now the time to ram home advantage. 310 by the end of the day, and make sure that we bat once in this game. And if we don't declare, if I'm England, I don't declare. I keep this Indian team in the field for as long as I possibly can. That's the message I'd be giving if I was England captain right now, and saying to this Indian side, it's going to be a long 2 days left in this game, and you're going to be, we are going to make sure that you're going to feel like we did when we left Lords. And that is something from that transition from then to now is huge. It's massive.
All right. Well, let's pick up this conversation at the end of the day's play. Got Bairstow, Butler, Moeen Ali, Sam Curran. That supposedly vulnerable middle order has now commenced. So we'll see if they can get some runs, get some form, and just continue to drive India to the ground, or if India can get some sort of collapse and try and make the conversation more interesting at the end of the day. Thank you, Maninder Singh, Steve Harmison, and we'll pick up this
Thank you.
chat on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. Join us at Stumps.